And welcome back to the show this morning at 6:17. There's a question and comments here. Of course, it's well known that Austin is the blueberry and the strawberry patch in Texas, I guess you should say.
Yes, the blueberry and the tomato soup.
It could be.
Of Texas.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's slowly, it's slowly changing here in the state of Texas. We're moving more and more towards a purple state every year, particularly with, the expansion of the Democratic Party, and particularly in Houston area, as well as major metro areas, tend to lean more liberal anyway. And, of course, in Austin, it's been kind of the hippification of the city over the years.
Been that way for decades.
I know, right? And it's just so funny. What's always kind of cracked me up is that we have a very, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. We've got, the governor as well. We have a very right-leaning Republican, conservative government in Texas, in the middle of a city that is very liberal. I've never quite got the juxtaposition of the two, how that actually works out. But it does, and somehow.
Well, fortunately, it's balanced. Fortunately,
I'm not sure it's balanced.
Well, a little bit.
Not where? If you go to Austin, it's as liberal as it can be. Where's the balance?
But the representation in the state capitol is of the entire state.
Well, I guess that's true. I guess from that point, yeah. And I guess then people that actually go there to represent the rest of Texas, they don't live there anyway, so except for just part of the year.
Right.
But anyway.
And fortunately, they only show up every 2 years.
Exactly. That could be the other issue, right? But of course, Apple's coming to Austin. They're going to open a facility there. This is just going to lead more to this idea. But the reason I bring this up is that over the weekend was South by Southwest. And not surprisingly, there was a big influx of Democratic representatives to South by Southwest to actually have a talk. And they were giving presentations and things. I'm not sure that I go to South by Southwest for the politics of it, but if I was going to go, they were there. Andrea Ocasio-Cortez, we've talked about her on the show from time to time because, of course, she was the one that said the world is going to end in 12 years. If you have kids, this is a quote from her. The world is going to end in 12 years. If you have kids, it will end probably like 6 years or something because they'll just breathe more. I have science right here. She held up a magazine, National Geographic. Unfortunately, that National Geographic was from 1989. That was that the study then said their world would end in 12 years. I'm not even sure she was born yet. At that point, we have to look up when she was actually, what her birthday is. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure she was alive in 1989. Anyway, but of course, this has been kind of the whole big debate about climate change. And of course, we have to shift policy and of course, her new Green Deal. Well, she was at, I should say, South by Southwest this weekend. When was she born?
1989.
She was born 1989. Mm-hmm. Okay, so she was born the year that magazine was published. Well, apparently she's not actually alive. Because the world ended. But anyway, she was at South by Southwest this weekend, and if you heard clips of her conversation, of her speech, right? It was like a 60-minute speech. She was basically attacking capitalism, and more importantly, she was attacking Reagan. And I thought the comments were outstanding from the standpoint of the lack of knowledge about what Ronald Reagan did as president, first of all, but secondly, about the impact of capitalism on society. Of course, she's a big proponent of MMT. Of course, this is the idea that the government can just spend without constraint. And see, this actually, I've got an article out this morning we just published a few minutes ago, and it's called Economic Theories. And it talks a little bit about Keynes and MMT and their ideas about debt and deficits and the issues there. And what's interesting is I was writing this article, and what the article turned out to be was simply the function that, as individuals, we latch onto things we like, and we hear the things that we like. So, for instance, if you're a big fan of government spending, you hear the part that says, well, we can just spend and without recourse, right? As long as we can print money and as long as we can have access to capital, we can just spend money like crazy and it's all fine. Well, that's what people hear. So, when you talk to these individuals like, AOC in particular, she sounds like a TurboTax commercial, right? Free welfare, free childcare, free jobs, free this, free, free, right? It's all free. It's not free. Somebody has to pay for it, right? The theory is that we can just print currency. Okay, so let's just look at it this way. If we could just print money, why do any of us work at all? Why even have an economy, right? See, this is the part that people miss. If I can just print money and give it to people, why work? Because in theory, I don't need to. If you're just going to give me money, why am I going to show up to a job? Well, if I don't show up to a job, then where are you going to get your products from? Where are you going to get your services from? Because again, if everybody's just getting money from the government, why am I going to drive an Uber? Or why am I going to go open up my gas station? Or why am I going to go spend time at my flower shop? Or why am I going to go, be a dentist or a doctor or for gosh sakes, a lawyer? Why would I do any of that? Why would I spend that effort when the government's just going to give me money? See, this is the problem that this whole idea revolves back around to, is that if I can give everybody something for free, because there is no consequence of just printing money, then why would I work? And this is why when you look at any country where this has been tried, right now, if you go on Amazon, I can give you if you'll go to Amazon right now, I can give you $10 billion. I can. I'm not going to give it to you. You're going to have to pay $6.15 for it. But for $6.15, I can make you a $10 billion billionaire today. Because you can order a $10 billion Zimbabwe dollar, right, for $6.15. Because that's what happens in a government where you just print money without constraint. And you have no underlying economy. You destroy the underlying economy. You have massive amounts of hyperinflation. So this is the part of the theory that nobody likes, right? This is what they don't want to hear. What they like to hear is that I can print money and give it to people, and that's going to be great. We're going to have this booming economy. The economy will take care of itself. Well, there's no evidence that that's ever occurred. If we take a look at the evidence, what we see over the last 40 years is that running debts and deficits have led to slower rates of economic growth. And there's a very direct correlation. In the article today, I've got several graphs showing exactly this. But, the point is that when you take a look at, for instance, our welfare system at the moment, the number of people that have some form of government assistance, right? The government is helping them out some way, whether it's through a Social Security check or whether it's a Medicare or Medicaid, and I'm talking about all food stamps, any type of the social welfare structure that we have in the country, right? 1 out of 4 families currently participate in some manner of governmental support. The amount of money that people get from the government today makes up 22% of disposable personal incomes. That's the highest level on record ever in the U.S. So in other words, about 1/5, almost 1/4 of the entire disposable income of a household comes from the government. Again, that's Social Security, and we have a lot of people moving to retirement, so I'm not discounting that at all. But I'm just saying is that we have an economy that is more dependent on government spending than ever before. So think about this. If we have 1 out of 4 families and 20% of incomes all dependent upon the government at $22 trillion in debt and running $1 trillion deficit, imagine what we can have if we double that, right? In other words, we can spend another $20 trillion and we can run our deficit to $2 trillion or $3 trillion or whatever that number is going to wind up being. And all we're going to wind up doing is having 50% of the population dependent upon the government. But that is what exactly they want anyway, right? This is the whole idea. Government dependency is what governments want, because once you're dependent upon the government, guess who has the control, right? You know, this has been the one issue that we've talked about often, is that everybody talks a great game when they're getting elected. You know, we're about to go into the election season coming up, and I think this is going to be one of the more fast. I've said this, you know, it's amazing. For 30 years growing up, politics was absolutely dull and boring. Nobody cared. And it was just, you know, the candidates would come up, they would run, and people would kind of mash through it. They would go vote for the guy they liked. But honestly, over the last 3 election cycles, it's actually been pretty fascinating. You know, the amount of rancor that has come out of these elections, and particularly the candidate process, has been more interesting to watch than I can remember in the last 30 years. But this year coming up for 2020 elections is going to be just as fascinating. The amount of stuff that you're going to hear coming out about economics and politics and how all this integrates together and what people are going to give you and what people are going to promise you, it's all going to sound great. They all talk a great game. We're about to have another election cycle where we're going to have a whole bunch of people come up talking about debts and deficits and how we need to stop overspending and how we need to get our deficit under control because it's going to ruin the economy. We're going to hear all that over again. And right now, I've actually got a chart in an article today. There is actually, in Congress, the lowest number of people that are actually concerned about the deficit that we've had since like 1978. So, you know, they just don't care anymore. They talk a great game about debts and deficits as they're getting elected, but as soon as they're elected, deficit? What's that? Because it's more fun to spend. Everybody wants to spend. Nobody wants to save, but this is why talking about it will get you elected. Doing something about it, actually trying to reform Social Security, right? Actually trying to fix the Medicare system will get you unelected. And that's the problem. Be right back after the break.
Want a longer talk with Lance about your money? Request a personal one-on-one at LanceRobertsShow.com.